Hello again, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Tigers Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Chris Schulte, and it is Sunday, August 17th, 2025 at the recording of this podcast. Very late Sunday evening. Possibly this thing won't get uploaded until Monday morning after midnight, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get into it. Injury report. Parker Meadows was with the team this week in Minnesota, just basically to get an eye on him, how he's progressing in his rehab, extend his baseball activities a little bit, try to get a better idea what's going on with his quad. Alex Cobb made another rehab start and is still dealing with some issues from the sounds of things, but, we'll see where things go from there. Sawyer Gipson-Long was activated off of the injured list on Wednesday, and pitched in the Tigers series win over the White Sox, and then was optioned down to AAA. So it's been a weird week as far as the moves are concerned with the Tigers, but you know what? It happens. So that's a good sign. We get to get him back in the fold. Alex Lang continues his rehab work. Jose Urquidy continues his rehab work, and Paul Sewald continues his recovery. Paul Sewald, of course, was picked up by the Tigers from the Guardians for, I believe, a player to be named later, cash considerations near the trade deadline. So there was that. Let's get into it for the week. Detroit went 5-2 for the week, which was quite a good week. They took care of business against two teams that they should have taken care of business against. Yes, they lost 8-1 to the Twins, and yes, they lost 9-4 to the White Sox. But in all reality, they took 2 out of 3 from Chicago, and they went into Minnesota and took 3 out of 4 from the Twins. And to go into another team's yard and take 3 out of 4, that's not easy to do. So there's that. Detroit comes into action today, 73-53, 20 games over the 500 mark, 8.5 game lead on the Cleveland Guardians, who must have gotten swept by the Braves. And this stat sort of presented itself to me, and I think it's kind of an interesting stat. It's kind of telling about the Tigers. Detroit is 52-14 in games where they score first. 52-14. Great record. The flip side to that is that they're 21-39 when the other team scores first. If you want to beat the Tigers, score first. And it's unusual because this team last year made a living in the late season off of comebacks. You look at where they went, how they got things done at the end of August and through all of September. A lot of those wins were comeback wins. And the fact is that they just don't do that much this year. And that's kind of telling. Now, it's a different offense. It's a different pitching staff. It's a different defense. Parker Meadows was in center field last year. Javier Baez and Wenceel Perez are splitting the center field duties this year. You had Matt Vierling in the outfield. He's on the injured list. You had Colt Keith at second base. Right now, Gleyber Torres is locking that down for the most part. So it's an interesting dynamic to think about. And look, going forward, they're playing some teams that aren't gonna wait around. You think Houston doesn't have the ability to score from the first pitch? They're going to play the Braves in a couple of weeks. You don't think they have that ability? The Mets? The Athletics? The Yankees? The Red Sox? You don't think these guys have that ability? We'll see. We'll see. The Tigers offensively, by the way, this year are on pace for 210 home runs. Kerry Carpenter hit his 22nd last night in Detroit's 8-5 win. Of course, Detroit won on Friday 7-0, and then 4-3 in extra innings over the Twins on Thursday. Tarek Skubal has not looked good in his last two starts. So, cancel the Cy Young Award. He's allowed 4 runs in one start and 3 runs in another. That's not good. My tongue is firmly implanted in my cheek when I make that comment, just so everybody knows. So an interesting week for the Tigers. And when I say that they took care of business, they also took care of some important numbers. They have one more series left with the White Sox. They're 7-3 in the first 10 games against the White Sox. That means they've won the season series. They're done with the Twins. They went 8-5 against the Twins. They've won that season series. They've got 6 left against Kansas City. They got 6 left against Cleveland. If they can take 2 of the next 6 against Kansas City, they'll win that season series. And if they can take 3 of the next 6, if they can split with Cleveland, they'll win that season series. Why is this important? Well, it's important because should it come down to a tie for first place in the division, which I find highly unlikely, but it could, then you're looking at a situation where if Detroit wins all 4 of their season series against divisional opponents, Cleveland doesn't have a tiebreaker to stand on because Detroit will have won their season series against Cleveland, and they'll have a better division record than Cleveland. Where the season series becomes a little bit more important is teams like Seattle, who came in and swept Detroit in just before the All-Star break. They won that season series 4 games to 2. Teams like Toronto, who took 3 out of 4 from the Tigers, they won that season series 4 games to 3. Toronto right now has, I want to say, a 1.5 game lead over the Tigers for best record in the American League. If Detroit can't make that up, or if Detroit finishes in a tie with Toronto for best record in the American League, Detroit's the number 2 seed. Now that still guarantees them a first round bye, but it doesn't give them home field advantage in the LCS unless Toronto loses in the divisional series, which is possible, but it's not likely. So it's important for Detroit to continue to win. Now, Detroit has 36 games left. 35 games left. They're on game. They just finished game 126. So yeah, 36 games left. Out of those 36 games, 12 are divisional games. 15 are divisional games. They got 6 against the Royals, 6 against the Guardians, 3 against the White Sox. 15 divisional games, 21 outside of the division. Starts with Houston tomorrow night. It's the Athletics next week, Monday. Then the Mets come to town. Detroit goes on the road for the Yankees and the Marlins. And then the Braves come to town, and Detroit goes on the road for the Red Sox. Now, in between that, so tomorrow night they start a series with Houston. Friday, they've got Kansas City at home. Then they go to Sacramento for the Athletics. Next Monday, next Friday, they got 3 in Kansas City. That season series is done. They come home for the Mets. And then they finish their season series with the White Sox at the beginning of September. Then they go on the road to the Yankees and Marlins, come home for the Guardians and the Braves, go on the road for the Guardians and the Red Sox. That's their remaining schedule. That takes you all the way through September 28th. Detroit has to take every single series out of all of those in order to finish with the best record in the American League. That's how good they have to play. That's how good they have to play. Each one of those series is a 3-game series. There's 12 series left. Detroit has to win all 12 series. Either that or hope Toronto spits the bit. And if Toronto spits the bit, then Detroit has to go into Yankee Stadium and beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. And they got to take 1 out of 3 against the Red Sox if they want to have a hope of winning the season series with those teams, because they swept Boston in Detroit. This is how it looks. And this is where we stand. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can. TigersBaseballPodcast@gmail.com. It's the world's longest email address. I'm proud of that. At Podcast Tigers on Twitter, at TB Podcast, at tweesecake.social on Mastodon. That's TWEESE Cake. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube page. I'd really appreciate it if you do that. Like, subscribe, ring that bell so that I know that, or so that you know that when I go live, or not when I would go live, but whenever I upload new content. I don't have enough subscribers to go live. Let's be realistic. Thanks for listening, everybody. Astros, Royals this week in a homestand for the Tigers. Jack Flaherty goes tomorrow night. Skubal on Tuesday. Kind of wonder how our chances are going to be against the Astros at that point. With that, we'll catch up with you guys next week. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Tigers.